Through Superman's history, the Man of Steel has appeared in 36 video games, with 17 of them being solo outings. But unlike his darker, broodier friend, Superman has never gotten the proper treatment he deserves, with the likes of Superman 64 haunting his catalog of games. But there's also another reason you've most likely never heard of any other games he's been in, and that's because they're crap. And today we're going to be covering a game that's often overlooked when talking about Superman's misadventures in the gaming space. A game so mediocre that I genuinely can't think of an interesting way to transition this bit into the intro. So, hello everybody, I'm B4 Brandos, and today we're covering Superman Man of Steel in the second part of our three-parter series covering Superman's troubles in the world of gaming. Now, Man of Steel was a game that was released in 2002, and it interestingly ties into the comic storyline that was happening in Superman at the time. In a comic story called Superman City of Tomorrow, Brainiac 13 from the 64th century tries to take over Metropolis and upgrades it with a ton of tech, truly turning it into the City of Tomorrow. Now, Superman Man of Steel takes place shortly after these events, and in it, Brainiac 13 returns to Metropolis to take all of his tech back, and Superman has got to stop him. Now, I don't really have any development information on this game to share today. To me, it sounds like it went as smoothly as it could. So what I will talk about before we get stuck into this thing is what this game was trying to achieve. See, if you were to flip through a gaming magazine around 2002, you probably would have seen this advertisement. And it reads, as close as you'll come to being him. Now, this is a very low bar, admittedly, when you're sharing history with the likes of Superman 64. But when I started this series, I had a wish list for everything I wanted in a Superman game. Something I could measure the game off of. And to be honest, I didn't talk about it last episode because Superman 64 never really had a chance at ticking any of these boxes. But starting now, I think it's reasonable to go in with some expectations. I mean, I'm getting promised that this game is as close as I can get to being him. So, what does being him mean? So we'll divide this up into three categories. All up, Superman needs to be powerful. And I won't complicate this too much, but he's got to feel faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, and able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Now, nothing too crazy. Just the absolute baseline we're looking for is a playable Superman that feels tough. Some extra little bonus things here will be, I want to be able to move around Metropolis. I want to be able to walk around the streets. I want to be able to save people. On the story end, Superman is a character with an expansive cast of supporting characters and villains. The reason comics are such a great source of stories is that you can follow a character for literally decades of their life. You can see them in pretty much every situation there is. You can really get to know these characters. So all I'm really asking is, get the characters right. How hard can that be, huh? And that doesn't include Superman because he's his own checkbox. I really don't think there's a character that's as consistently misunderstood as Superman. Batman might be a close contender, Mr. I beat my adopted kids, but people consistently get Supes wrong. He's not some goody two-shoes that's absolutely perfect, and he's also not some naive strongman with only a thread connecting him to humanity. Superman, or more Clark Kent, is just a man with extraordinary powers who was raised with strong morals. Part of Superman as a character is the struggle within himself. Think of if you or I were born with superpowers, how easily it would be to use those powers selfishly. In fact, as a younger man, Clark played football, which, you know, being all these things, might have given him a little bit of an advantage. But Pa Kent got Clark to quit because he saw it as a misuse of his power. And that's what Superman's all about. It's his ability to do anything that gives him absolute agency over his life. The challenge comes from deciding what he won't do. And the most super thing about Superman is how he makes those decisions. The restraint he shows, the humanity he shows, the attention he pays to things, no matter how small they could seem to a man like him. Superman's greatest powers lies up here, and how every day he uses his abilities to help others instead of himself. That's why he's a beacon of hope and inspiration. It's not because he's an all-wise space Jesus, it's because he's a regular person like you or me. And if one person can be given the keys to the world and not choose to sit atop a throne, couldn't we all resist that temptation? Couldn't we all be a better version of ourselves? Couldn't we all bring about a better tomorrow together? That's the beauty of Superman as a character, and it is absolutely vital that you understand these concepts steps before you go and write a game that stars Superman. So yeah, the game has to get Superman as a character right. Finally, we gotta talk music. Superman is once again a character which you cannot fuck up the music for. And I say not as in it's not possible to fuck up the music for him. I'm saying you're not allowed. Because Superman's got aura, right? When he's fighting someone or he's pulling some totally bullshit move to save the day, you can feel some invisible orchestra going crazy around him. Because he's the ultimate hero. This shit is meant to be epic. Baseline, you've got to have grade A music for Superman. It's got to be loud, bombastic, intense, and also inspiring. If Superman's backing track is lame, it's going to make everything he's doing seem lame too. So yeah, that's my total wish list for a Superman game. That's what you have to get right in order for a project like this to succeed. It's just a shame that the developers of this game seemingly traveled forwards in time, stole this list, and used it as a checkbox of things not to do when making their game. So jumping in, the game picks up with Lois and Clark walking around Metropolis, and holy shit, the voice acting is bad.
That's just the farm boy in me. You know, if the rocket ship that brought me to Earth as a baby hadn't landed in Kansas,
you'd still have incredible abilities far beyond that of mortal men.
But suddenly the whole city starts glitching out and Brainiac 13 returns. Clark then gets souped up and flying off, we jump right into gameplay. Now starting off, our first objective we're called to is to stop some robots from attacking a building, and this is where we learn all of Superman's controls, which yeah, they're not great. Like starting with flying, just basing it on responsiveness alone, it's a world better than Superman 64. The only problem is with the mapping. For some reason, the left stick moves you left, right, as well as up and down, while the right stick rotates you and sends you backwards and forward. Like what? You were so close to getting it right. Just make the right stick control rotation as well as up and down, and then the left stick can be backwards, forwards, left and right. How hard is that? It feels like you're wrestling with Superman on which way to go. I felt at times that plunging my hands through the screen would yield better results at controlling the guy than actually using the controller. On the combat side though, it's nothing insane. Brainiac's robots are all vulnerable to different powers. Yellow drones need to get beaten up, purple drones lasered, green drones frozen. Thankfully, we do get a lock-on feature here, so we're not left at the mercy of the awful controls. Right now, you might be thinking, this is all sounding very okay. Beating up robots, it's sounding very Superman-y. Despite the janky controls, we're off to a good start. And that's fair. It's the second level of the game that makes you realize what you're really getting into.
Great Krypton! I've got to extinguish those fires before they spread. A little freeze breath should do the trick.
So jumping in, our first objective is to put out some fires, and then we fight some robots, and then we need to put out some other fires, then we fight some more robots. And just as putting out fires and fighting robots starts getting old, we get another objective to relocate a communications tower. But the tutorial to pick it up is on screen for about 5 seconds, so I did not get this the first time round, which isn't a bad thing because we get a first look at the hilarious game over screens. And these things are great because they're so stupid. Superman, the beacon of hope and pushing forwards, fails at one objective in this game, and then we get a cutscene of him falling to his knees and face palming. Also, each time you die, you hear a voice in the background describing exactly how you failed. It's brutal.
Brainiac 13's robots have defeated Superman. The towers were not placed in time. All emergency communication signals have been lost. The fires were not extinguished in time.
Superman has failed to put out the fire. 1 billion have now died. But after finally figuring out how to lift this stupid tower, the level comes to the end and we get this cutscene that's just a fever dream. First, the voice acting on Superman and Jimmy Olsen is horrible. The music is too loud, as well as like really out of place. Just have a look, you'll see.
It's not safe for you to be here, Jimmy.
I'd rather face those bots instead of going back to the chief without pictures. Metal left over from those things is identical to the composition of the Brainiac bots you fought before, when Brainiac upgraded Metropolis and nearly...
I remember, Jim. I also remember that I was barely able to beat Brainiac 13 before.
So after this apparently useless cutscene, we're thrust into mission 3, where we're gonna play a little game, right? What do you think we're gonna be doing in this level? You've got 5 seconds, legitimately, tell it to me, tell it to the screen. What do you think we're doing in this level? Okay, if you said fighting robots and putting out fires, you're pretty much right. We start the level by once again fighting Brainiac's robots, and after that we're told a bank just got robbed and set on fire. So we head over there, and I failed this objective so many times because there is so little breathing room for mistakes in this game. You have to fly over to the bank and then expertly weave around the building, blowing out fires. And I'm pretty sure you only have like 25 seconds to do this. But once again, the controls are so shit. It's really hard to move quickly enough. Eventually I did it though, and our next objective is pretty fresh. We have to stop the bank robbers from escaping, and upon taking them to the cops, it's revealed that they planted a bomb in a random car for some reason. So we have to go to this area full of cars, and here you're meant to use your X-ray vision to look inside the cars. But if you guess the wrong one and use your freeze breath on it, you fail the whole mission. Superman's like, oh no, I freezed the wrong car, I failed. What? But that's about it for this level, and you might be surprised to learn that everything we've covered so far has happened in the space of an hour and a half. For a little translation, there's a lot of nothing happening considering the amount of time we've been playing this game. It's just been 3 levels of putting out fires and beating up robots and picking up radio towers. By this point, it's starting to get a little bit old. It sucks because on one hand, this is kind of accurate to the character. When there's a big citywide crisis, Superman is non-stop helping people, saving people, battling enemies. Unfortunately, that doesn't really add up to fun, especially when you put on such strict time limits as this game does. It's weird, but in some ways, this game does feel a little bit like an updated Superman 64, the way that it doesn't give you a second to breathe. In that game, you would be flying around and then get a 20-second time limit mission shoved in your face. And even when you completed that mission, it's right back to the time trial rings. That's what this feels like. Every time I complete an objective, there's another one I need to get on right now. Even in the fighting sections, they have time limits since Brainiac's robots are usually attacking a building. So every level is just this exhausting, stressful sprint. Level 4 stops the game from becoming a complete slog though, as in it, we follow a train that's run out of control. And throughout the level, we need to get stuff off the tracks and put out fires. As well as that, we also need to protect it from Brainiac's forces. And yeah, I am praising a glorified escort mission here, but it feels Superman-y. You know, these obstacles are just as much a time limit as your regular fire mission, but they feel real. The time limit is the train. It's not some clock ticking down. After all this though, Superman decides to go pay Lex Luthor a visit and just talk some shit. I don't know. Superman is like, hey, are you involved in this? Lex says, no. Then Superman says, okay, but I'm watching.
I'll be watching you. Remember that.
Remember it? I'm counting on it.
What are we doing here? Is this like superhero bingo? I feel like we're hitting all the cliches. Meanwhile though, Brainiac decides to make Superman's life harder and frees Bizarro plus his clones. The cutscene then shows off some of the worst voice acting this game has to offer.
After a long time asleep, me tired. Bizarro clones am pretty. Me have new cape and nameplate. Bizarro ugly. Now, what me do now?
So with us entering the next section of the game, the main enemies have now become Bizarro clones, which are an absolute pain to fight. These guys pretty much can't be hurt until they start taunting, and when they do attack, they spam this fire breath mode that lags the fuck out of the Xbox. But what is there really to say? Once again, we're flying around, protecting buildings, putting out fires, picking up shit and putting it down. It's just more of what we've been doing. The good news is that it only lasts for one level, and the next brings us head to head with Bizarro himself, which head to head probably isn't the best description because he spends most of the mission flying away from you. And get this, setting fires that we have to put out. Like, holy shit, there are more ways to save people than to just put out fires. Did anyone playtest this? Was there an arsonist on the dev team that would burn people if they complained about how many fires were in the game? It's ridiculous. But the Bizarro boss fight is pretty quick. When I say that this game is very reminiscent of Superman 64, I'm talking about shit like this. Because in that game, you beat the bosses by punching them and nothing else. And in this game, guess what you do?
The hero of Metropolis.
Bizarro am saving world now.
Finally ending the fight, we get another cutscene where 2 of the worst voice actors in the game go head to head to see who can play their character worse.
Bizarro not bad. Bizarro helped Superman.
I know, Bizarro. And now some men from Star Labs are coming to help you and the others.
Oh, good. That make me sad. Me going to wake up for a little while now. Hello.
After this, we're thrust into a few nighttime levels, which I have nothing to say about. It's more filler, more beating up robots, more fires, blah, 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 skip. The next day, though, Superman decides he's had enough of fighting fires and goes straight for Brainiac. And all we really do here is complete a puzzle. Superman then discovers that he can't even touch Brainiac 13, which, not to be like a comics nerd or anything, right? But Superman, you've fought this guy before. You should know you can't actually touch them. But flying off, Superman meets with Steel to strategize, and he tells us that we need to go to Warworld in order to find some tech that could take down Brainiac. So Superman travels to Warworld, and arriving at a prison, his first idea here is nuts.
Maybe if I help the prisoners escape, they can help me find the disruptor.
What? So Mongol is a bad guy, right? He's a dictator, he's evil, but are you sure you should be pulling a prison break, Superman? There's got to be at least a few people in there that deserve to be there, right? But working our way through the level, they did not switch up the formula for Warworld. It is still one boring objective after the other. This level is still a bit more fun though, since it's more fighting than putting out fires, which would be awesome if the combat wasn't hell-bent on putting me to sleep. But luckily we don't have to put up with it for too long, since we meet a prisoner in an interesting outfit who tells us where to find this magical piece of tech we're after. And once we grab it, we go to leave Warworld, except Mongol catches up to us, who's not happy we sprung his prisoners. Mongol then fires his ship's nuclear reactor at Earth. We then have to heat vision it for a few minutes, and once we destroy it, the level just ends. And Mongol just gives up. He's like, oh, okay, no, next time then, Superman, I'll get you next time.
Well done, Superman. You have perhaps won this battle, but the war will yet be mine.
The game then transitions over to one of the worst cutscenes in the entire game.
Metallo? Stay back, Jimmy.
Lois Lane? Hey, as if this day wasn't lucky enough already.
Hey, what's with the King Kong fixation? Get over it and put me down right now.
I hope B-13's interference didn't fry this thing. And I sure hope you can hear me, Big Blue.
Just the randomness of it, the missing sound effects, the voice acting, the fact that Jimmy and Lois couldn't see this massive fucking robot right in front of them. It's painful. Launching into gameplay though, I saw Metallo and I was like, cool dude, big robot. How can you fuck this up? Well, Man of Steel finds a way, let me say that. First up, Metallo's voice acting is fucking horrible. I wouldn't think in a million years he would sound like this.
Oh well, if it ain't Superman. Pop quiz, Soupy. Do you save the day or disarm the bombs I set?
But that's not the worst part. What sucks is our mission objective. Metallo has planted bombs all over Metropolis and we have to go freeze them, fight some robots, and then after that, Metallo says he's planted more bombs. And then guess what we have to do after that? Fight more robots. I'm going insane. Just talking about this game is boring as fuck. Although once we get back on Metallo's trail, it does get switched up since now we have to chase him as he destroys stuff. And this sequence is really different from the rest of the game because
Now Metallo's setting fires too.
just kidding, bro runs around setting fucking fires. There's a little bit of civilian saving, but it's mostly fires. Entering a cutscene though, I don't know if Metallo is meant to say something here, but his mouth moves and nothing comes out. In fact, this is pretty much audio problems, the cutscene, because look at this. The sound is not edited here. I don't know what's going on. Now getting down to the boss fight, I'm sure there's a legit strategy for beating Metallo, but I found a pretty janky one where it turns out the Metallo's NPC can't hit upwards. So if you position Superman directly above him and just keep punching him, he can't do anything. But defeating Metallo, Superman goes to speak to Steel, who's revealed to have been taken over by Brainiac. And I mean, what am I meant to say? After Steel takes off, we undergo the process we've been going through all this game. A new boss shows up, the map becomes populated with his minions, and you bet there's gonna be some fires to put out. And once we beat Steel, we give him the Warworld tech and witness the most unintelligible cutscene ever created.
Warworld disruptor. I never doubted you. It's going to take me at least an hour to analyze this technology, not counting the conversion process.
Hey, what was that? So afterwards, Superman heads back to Lex Corp for some reason, I don't know, and Lex says he needs Superman's help in defending some satellites from Brainiac's mothership, and this level is pretty cool. The battle arena is space, so it's obviously massive, and I think without having all the buildings in the way, the combat is a little alright. The satellites also look like little watchtowers from Justice League, which I also like. But let me get this down straight. It's still not a great level, because once again, we're defending something from a bunch of robots, like we've been doing for the past 5 hours now. Also, I haven't mentioned this yet since the combat in this game turned my brain to slop and I can't really recall anything about it, but Superman is weak as hell in this game, dude. Whenever you get into a conversation with someone about the idea of a Superman game, the inevitable topic will shift to how would they make his invincibility work? Well, do you know what the devs' answer to that question was? They didn't come up with one because they didn't think of it, they just ignored it. Superman is very invincible in this game, so these fights really suck because it's not even really about having a back and forth with the enemies, it's about ending the fight before you die. And the only way to do that is hit all the Dance Dance Revolution moves and match all the superpowers to the right colors. There's no strategy. That's why when I say this game is boring, you need to believe me. They spam the same scenario multiple times every single level, and the solution to that scenario is always exactly the same. So yeah, the whole level is just what we've been doing for the whole game, but it's in space, so there's only a certain level of enthusiasm I can feel here. But after defending the satellites, we storm Brainiac's ship. Once inside, we set it to blow, and upon escaping, the cutscene that plays here is fucking hilarious. Superman really locks in for the explosion here. Now, I don't really know why, but after this, Superman heads to Lex's tower, and I don't know if I missed something, but Superman is convinced that Lex has double-crossed him here. And Luthor just admits to it? What's going on?
You double-crossed me.
Yes, I did.
But Superman flies off and meets with Steel again, who says that the War World tech won't be enough to stop Brainiac, and that they need Kryptonian technology, which they can only get from the Phantom Zone. So heading there, we're told to protect Steel, and yes, this is an escort mission, because Superman games are just a fucking dumping ground for the worst gameplay mechanics ever conceived, I guess. I'll be fair though, and say the Phantom Zone does look wicked. I am, however, not a fan of the ever-moving filter that's placed on the screen. This level gave me the worst motion sickness. Anyways, the whole thing is pretty much about following Steel around as he scans for tech, and we have to defend him from Phantom Zone prisoners, which also look pretty awesome. But enough complimenting this game, because Steel straight up needs more health. If you even leave him alone for 20 seconds, the motherfucker dies, bro. And the funny thing here is that when you fail the mission, this voice line plays.
Superman? Superman?
And it even plays if Steel dies too.
Superman? Superman?
It's like he's taunting you from the grave or something. But yeah, after we find the Kryptonian technology, Cyborg Superman shows up, and you can't hear a thing he's saying.
Now you're in my domain, where you'll stay forever, knowing for all eternity that I'm on the outside.
And the strat for this guy is to pretty much laser him. There's seriously not much else. And if you die here, I think you get arguably the funniest death screen in the game.
Superman is not able to escape the Phantom Zone in time and is forever trapped in its nightmarish worlds.
Damn, man, why are these things so intense? All game, every time you fail the tiniest objective, you hear something like, Superman failed to save a cat out of a tree. Now its owner will get chronic depression. After defeating Cyborg Superman though, we go back to Metropolis, where Lex starts taunting Superman over a special frequency. Like this whole thing was his plan or something, which I don't understand the story, so maybe it is. But heading over to Brainiac, our final battle begins, which consists of picking up 4 generators and putting them down at 4 different spots, and then heat blasting him with our heat vision. As one last challenge here, they just shove you into an arena with the toughest enemies in the game and tell you to do some objectives that you've been doing all game. It's really lazy to the point where you don't actually get to fight Brainiac 13. Yeah, this giant robot that has been materializing all game. The one promise we had of something cool happening here gets taken care of in the final cutscene. In the end, Steel shows up and gives us our gizmo we've been crafting all game, and stabbing it into Brainiac, bro fucking explodes. We then cut to Lex, who says, "You're average, I'll get him next time." But you know, that's not important. What is important is I realized something here. Lex Luthor has been standing on this exact building all game. Every time we see him, he's standing on this roof. Was there not another conceivable place Superman and Lex Luthor could have met during the game? Finally, in one last cutscene, Lex comes down from his tower for the first time in the game and holds a press conference saying absolutely nothing. Oh, and he also says future in a really funny way.
We will shepherd this great city of ours into the future.
Into the future. The game then ends on a note I could only describe as anticlimactic.
Metropolis is safe, and that's the most important thing. No matter what, I'll always be here to fight the never-ending battle for truth and justice. Always.
And that was Superman Man of Steel. And I've got to say, the game kind of sucks, but not in a good way. Not in a way where it turns around into being something kind of fun. It's just very repetitive, very boring. The game is nothing but just a bunch of repetitive missions and objectives going over and over and over again on different levels. It's so boring and lazy. The gameplay loop is boring. The actors even sound like they're bored. The soundtrack is also incredibly bland. I don't know, I feel like the devs just came up with the idea for this game and then that was it. They made that initial draft of the idea into a full game and got this. I will say though, this game does get points for its unlockable costumes because there's some pretty good picks in here. Golden Age Superman, Black Suit Superman, Kingdom Come Superman. These are pretty awesome suits. The only thing that's unfortunate is that in the game, the camera is pretty far away from the player, so you can't really soak in all the details of these suits. There's also a free roam mode in the extras, which is pretty cool, except so I guess in that respect, it's pretty similar to the rest of the game. It's bland. Overall, there are two sides to this thing. This is a bad game, and it's also a bad Superman game. On just the gameplay, it's clunky, repetitive, frustrating, and mind-numbingly boring. But then on the Superman side, the characters are so fucking boring too. Superman is this cardboard cutout of a person. He's like what people imagine Superman to be. Hell, when I was growing up, I thought Superman was lame because of media like this. Media that made him look boring and unrelatable and nothing but a hero that's like, I'm here to save you, citizen. There's no real story here. It seems like they wanted to tell some sort of sequel to City of Tomorrow, but somehow nothing really happens. No character plots from that comic move forwards. There's barely any plot threads from City of Tomorrow in this game. I don't understand trying to tell a Superman story if you're not gonna tell one. So in the end, you're left with a game that's not fun to play as someone who likes to play video games, and it's not fun to play as a fan of Superman. So who was this made for? Because the average Joe isn't gonna have read Superman City of Tomorrow or know who Brainiac 13 is. So it's not made for the general audience, but it's also not made for the fans. What the hell? That's about it. The game sucks. It's not even fun to complain about. It's getting a nice 3 out of 10. But I do know what you're all thinking. Is this game as close as you can get to being him? Well, no, because a month before this game came out, Superman Shadow of Apocalypse released. And that game has a comprehensible story, bearable flight controls, good voice acting, and it's not amazing by any stretch, but it's a hell of a lot better than this piece of shit. So yeah, fuck you, Superman Man of Steel. This isn't even your review anymore. This is the Superman Shadow of Apocalypse review, and I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. Okay guys, that's it. I'm Superman'd out for today, but thanks for watching, and be sure to join in next time for our final part on our Superman series, where we will cover the best and the last Superman game made to date.